the Sports Betting Network.
This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Good morning and welcome into the VSiN Morning Line. Thank you for getting your Wednesday started here with us. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi, and Harrison Sanford will soon be joining us. We got plenty of news to cover here in the NFL. Injury updates, line movements, quarterback controversies still heading into week 4. We're going to cover all that and more. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on our show today. We got 3 guests joining us on the way. Will Hill, VSiN contributor and host of the Shoulda Bet More podcast, joining us at 7:45 Eastern. Barrett Sallee, host of the College Football Covered and Smothered podcast and SiriusXM college football host, joining us at 8:30 Eastern. And Adam Burke, our VSiN managing editor, joining us with his best bets at 9:30 Eastern. So set your alarms for all of that. Coming up in this hour, we're going to take a look at Michael Lombardi's newest writing spotlight. What is wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars? He's breaking it down for us. We're taking a look at the Heisman market update and the possibility that Travis Hunter has of winning the whole thing, and get a little week 5 college football preview in there. And then Will Hill once again joining us with his best bets for NFL and college football. But Michael, let's get into the NFL news right now. Mike Tomlin confirming that Justin Fields will start against the Colts. Fields coming off his best game as a Steeler. However, Tomlin refusing to label him as QB1. Tomlin talked about it yesterday in his press conference. Let's take a listen.
What more do you need to see from Justin? Why not name him the starting quarterback going forward?
Because there's no need. I explained to you the variables of the week. It has not changed. He's going to walk in this building with that mindset tomorrow. And so I really, there's no need to. Sometimes in this business, man, there's a myriad of complex decisions that need to be made. I've learned to make them when it's appropriate and it's not necessary as we sit here right now. When Russ gets to an appropriate point of health and we have a decision to make, I'll make it and I'll announce it and I'll be really transparent about it. But until then, I don't care how many ways you guys ask me, I got no intentions of making the decision that's unnecessary at this juncture.
I could listen to Tomlin all day. There's nobody better. There's nobody better at communicating the message. But what he's really revealing to everybody is he doesn't want to put the pressure on Justin Fields. He doesn't want the media to do to Justin Fields what they did to him in Chicago with this MVP expectation, with all this stuff that's going into him. He's trying to manage the young man. He wants him to stay focused, stay hungry, and he doesn't have to make a decision. Once he anoints him the number 1 quarterback, then you know what the next thing is, Grace? Are you going to sign him to an extension? Are you going to pay him a lot of money? See, Tomlin already sees the future, so he knows where they're going, and he's not going to let them get there. He's just saying it's week to week. And so I think this is a lesson in how to manage a quarterback, how to manage expectations, and how to take the pressure off so you don't have idiots from the worldwide leader screaming for this kid to be the MVP when he hasn't completed any passes, and you put this unfair expectation on him. Let him just keep playing. Let him keep doing what he's doing. And then we'll find out how it works out. But to me, that's classic leadership from Tomlin 101.
That's a great perspective. Yeah, keep the expectations somewhat stable for a young quarterback trying to turn the page in his career. But at the same time, do you see any or sense any politicking here for Mike Tomlin trying to keep Russell Wilson happy?
Well, look, it's, Mike Tomlin's job is to win games. He's not worried about keeping Russell happy. And Russell's calf injury, which started the first day. Look, one thing we do know about these lower leg injuries to quarterbacks, we've seen it with Justin Herbert, who tried to come back off a high ankle sprain, didn't last the whole game. We know that those calves are problematic for quarterbacks. We saw it last year with Joe Burrow. So, look, he got injured. He's an older player. He's on a 1-year deal. I think Mike Tomlin's been very transparent. And look, they'll be screaming to put Russell in the game if Fields wasn't playing within the framework of the Steelers. Look, they win with their defense. They're not winning. And I think this is really what Tomlin's also saying. We're not winning with Justin Fields throwing for 300 yards. Justin Fields is playing within the framework of our offense that coincides with our defense and our kicking game. He's playing complementary football. That's all Mike Tomlin wants. No turnovers, clean exchanges. Look, we'll punt it if we have to punt it because our defense is that good. So give Fields credit for managing his game and listening to Arthur Smith and going with the game plan. That Arthur Smith deserves a ton of credit here as well.
The Steelers right now a 1.5-point road favorite against the Colts, but the quarterback situation not the only news coming out of Pittsburgh this week. Linebacker Alex Heith is out for multiple weeks with a groin injury. Michael, what's the impact of losing Highsmith on this number 1 ranked defense?
Well, he got hurt last week, and Herbert came in and just was sensational. He was great in the preseason. I mean, he got a sack, got a bunch of pressures. The young man from Wisconsin was tremendous. Highsmith's a really good player, but the Steelers do such a good job of defining the roles of their outside rusher. I don't think they're going to miss it. It's going to miss a beat. I think they're going to be able to carry on just like they did against the Chargers. This defense understands what they need to do and how they need to play. Now, going against Indianapolis, I mean, remember last year, they went into Indianapolis. Everybody had written them off, thought the Colts could win that game, and they went in there and dominated that game. So for me, I think it's really critical that, their defense keeps playing at this high level, which I think is outstanding, and they will. I don't really see it as – I mean, I know Highsmith's a really good player, but I don't see it with Herbig. I don't see it as a decline from him. He's too good. He's played really well. He's one of the most underrated players in the league, and he was doing it in preseason, Grace.
Yeah, rare to see that kind of effort in preseason, but the Steelers' defense has allowed 26 points total this season, their fewest through 3 games since 2007. A few more injury updates we want to get to here. The Dolphins quarterback, Skyler Thompson, now day-to-day with a rib injury, and Tyler Huntley, a possibility to start, but the team also looking at other quarterback options. What do you think the best move here is for Miami?
Play Tyler Huntley. I mean, they're not going to go back to Skyler Thompson. That was a disaster. That was a complete and utter disaster. Like, they know now after what Skyler Thompson did in that, forget about the preseason, forget about all that stuff. They know that there's no chance they have, and they can't go to Tim Boyle, so I think, to me, they've got no choice. They got to get Tyler Huntley ready. I mean, look, the guy went to the Pro Bowl. He's not a Pro Bowl player, but he could say 20 years from now he was a Pro Bowl quarterback in the National Football League because he did go. This is a game Miami can't. They got to figure out a way to play without their quarterback. They got to figure out a way to be alternative with their offense. They haven't done that. My man, the disc jockey, Mike McDaniels, he's still spinning records thinking he's got all his offense intact. And I think the offensive line limitations of the Miami Dolphins, for all those people that think they have a really good line, I think they found the reality out in Seattle. They don't. I don't see this as a decision. To me, you got to get Tyler Huntley better. I know that Adam Schefter, who does a wonderful job and he's really good, reported that they have to look at alternatives. Is Dorian Thompson an answer for a trade? I don't know. I don't think that is. How about Zach Wilson? I don't think that is. I mean, I think the best thing they can do is get Huntley caught up. I mean, look, Matt LaFleur got Malik Willis caught up to speed, and Malik Willis played way better than anyone ever thought, including me, that he could play in Green Bay. Now, can it last? I don't know. But to me, that's the job of the head coach, especially if you're an offensive guru. But Skyler Thompson did not look like he was prepared to play in that game at all.
Looking at the various lines for this game, I'm seeing a Tennessee -1, a Miami -1. I'm seeing a pick'em at one book. So it's really just find your edge and then back that team if you want to back either of these at all. It's kind of scary. But do you
Grace,
see an edge on either side?
You want to back Will Levis?
No way. No.
Huh?
I don't want to back either team here. It's just, one of those you pop popcorn and let the chaos begin.
This might qualify for what I call the Hall and Oates play. So Darryl Hall and John Oates, when they were actually talking to one another before they filed all these lawsuits against one another, they were the number one, had more top 1 hits in the country. They had a song, I Can't Go For That. And every week I write a column and I put it in there. I can't go for that. A game that I can't go for. Well, yep. This might be my Hall and Oates play because I can't pick either side. Like I would lean if I know Tyler Huntley's going to play, I think I'm going to take Miami because Miami, remember last year, They got beat by Tennessee down there. I mean, Will Levis actually played really well in that game. That game probably gave him his future at Tennessee. Why, I don't know. But, there's 2 games this weekend that have a lot of, we got to get back at them. New Orleans got whooped by Atlanta in Atlanta last year. Pittsburgh got whooped by Indianapolis in Indianapolis last year. And Tennessee came from behind and beat Miami in Miami last year. We got rematches on all those games. It's going to be fun to watch that.
Ooh, yeah, love that motivation factor. One more injury I want to squeeze in here. Bengals right tackle Trent Brown suffered a torn patellar tendon in his right knee. He will undergo season-ending surgery. What kind of impact will that have on their game against the Panthers?
Well, they drafted Mims in the first round. They put him in the game and immediately gave up a sack. It looked like he was not even close to being ready to play. He had injuries all summer. This right tackle position, even when Trent Brown was playing, was a concern for them. And now that they've got T. Higgins back along with Chase, if they can protect the right side of their line, they have a chance. But Mims is a long way, at least from that game last week when you watched him against Washington. I mean, he was going against a rookie defensive lineman, and he got beat inside badly. So it's going to be an uphill climb, and Zach Taylor is going to have to give some kind of protection to the right side, which is typically, Zach Taylor wants to get 5 out in the route and put it on Burrow. But I think he's going to have to protect Mims here. This is going to be significant for them.
Yeah, and that line, by the way, moving the Panthers' way. All right, coming up next, what is wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars? After the owner Shad Khan promised the best team Duval has ever seen, his Jags are winless. Michael Lombardi is writing about it, and we're talking about it next. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Wednesday on Follow the Money, 5 days left in the baseball regular season, and we talk to Sal Pal, NFL picks, Rich Gannon on the quarterback play, Mike Palm, VP of Circa, and Matt Human's picks. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line, getting you ready for the NFL week ahead and recapping some of the headlines from this past weekend. Nobody tells Shad Khan this, but his Jaguars preseason win total was 8.5. The adjusted win total now sits at 6.5. This, of course, comes after the Jaguars have started the season 0-3 with the second worst point differential in the league. The Jags owner had some pretty lofty claims in a team meeting before camp back in August. Let's take a listen.
Winning now is the expectation. Make no mistake, this is the best team assembled by the Jacksonville Jaguars ever. Best players, best coaches, but most importantly, let's prove it by winning now.
Yeah, I think Shad Khan has been very vocal about what he thinks about his team, what he thinks about the direction of his organization, and I think he is probably going to be really fed up. I think this is why everybody's on Doug Peterson watch, because Khan's not only come out with those comments there that we heard about this being the best team in Jacksonville Jaguar history, which I would disagree with Mr. Khan on, because I think that team that Tom Coughlin had that got to the conference championship game, or even the team that Doug Marrone had with Blake Bortles at quarterback, at least they played better with more physical toughness. This team has no toughness to it. This team is exactly what we think about some other teams in the sense that they're an all-Madden team. You know, let's make sure we sign Gabe Davis, Duvernay, get him in here. You know, we'll draft Brian Thomas in the first round. Meanwhile, our offensive line, particularly inside at the guard position with Ezra Cleveland and Brandon Sheriff, they're terrible. They're not playing very well. The tackles, Cam Robinson, isn't playing very well. So they've got some real issues, Grace, in their offensive line. That's not even talking about the issue with the guy they just paid $54 million to in Trevor Lawrence. So I think all those things, one thing about being an owner in the National Football League, you don't want to get humiliated. You don't want to have that quote show up and put in your face all the time. And if they go into Houston and lose, they're 7-point dogs. That line jumped to 7. Now, you know, I was going through getting ready for the show today. There's some trends that benefit them, teams that have lost, that have come back from that. Jacksonville fits in this category. Hold on, let me get it for you here, Grace. Jacksonville, the worst loss in week 1, losing by 37 points okay? In the last 20 years, teams that have lost by 30 or more points and are underdogs of 4 points or more, their next game, they're 64% against the spread. So obviously the trend favors Jacksonville here. Nobody's going to want to play Jacksonville. It's an ugly play. Although Jacksonville went in there last year after being, went in there and played them. After Houston beat them in Jacksonville, they went into Houston and won the game. So, and the last time that we've seen Trevor Lawrence win a game, Grace, was in Houston against the Texans.
Yeah, well, 1-8 since then. By the way, speaking of quotes, going back to Shad Khan, there's a report from a beat writer from Jax.com. His name's Demetrius Harvey, covering the team. He tweeted out after that game, someone close to Jaguars owner Shad Khan to me tonight says this: "He is angrier than I have ever seen. He is usually a reserved, kind gentleman. Not tonight." So things getting heated.
Yeah. I think what happens, Grace, is when these guys get embarrassed. I mean, look, these are some of the richest men in the world. They don't want to be embarrassed. On national TV, you get your game on Monday night. There's a lot at stake in Jacksonville. See, I think what happens is when you're building a new stadium, you need momentum. You need credibility. You don't need, an offense that looks like a disaster. And I think there's going to be some infighting going on because Shad Khan just doesn't know whether his team's good or not, right? So someone's telling him how talented he is. Now, his general manager, Trent Brown, he's been in the league, was in San Francisco for a long time. He thinks his team's really talented. I'm sure he thinks this team should not be 0-3. And Doug Peterson's probably the brunt of the reason why. But look, they made a change in defensive coordinator last year from Mike Caldwell. Their offense hasn't been very productive. All this nonsense that Peterson's going to give Trevor Lawrence everything he needs to be a great player, it just hasn't happened yet. And then you got the Sam Darnold effect that we're seeing in the league. The same thing with Baker Mayfield. At what point does Doug Peterson make Trevor Lawrence a better player, just like they've made Baker Mayfield a better player, just like they made Kevin O'Connell's made Sam Darnold a better player. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen it because they have no physical toughness whatsoever as their team. They're a 7-on-7 team, and everything falls on the quarterback, even though in games they've proven they could run the football. They only run their run count is way down because of it. I think, to me, this is a team that lacks the fundamentals, the discipline, and the technique needed to be able to compete at the highest level. And when owners get embarrassed like he did in Buffalo, watch out. Watch out.
Yeah, I think you could excuse Trevor Lawrence's first year because he was under Urban Meyer and that whole fiasco. Yeah. But Doug Peterson was supposed to be the guy to turn this thing around. But it feels like we're watching Trevor Lawrence regress in live time in front of our eyes. I mean, that interception on Monday Night Football cannot happen. That one is inexcusable. But through 3 games now, Trevor Lawrence has a 52.8 completion rate for 6.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 11 sacks. Let's hear from the quarterback himself now on the mood in the locker room. But just kidding. We have a little bit of time to get that soundbite, but we will get it back to you. Michael, I think it's worth talking about, though, Trevor Lawrence signing this huge deal in the offseason. It might join the category of worst contract in the NFL. What do you think?
Well, it looks like, yeah, I mean, it looks bad right now. I mean, there's no question it looks bad. And part of it, oh, here it is. Go ahead, roll the tape, Elliot.
Let's take a listen.
It's enough talking, and we're not going to talk ourselves into anything. We got to go out there and do it. No one's coming to save us. It's us. So, and I still got all the trust and faith in our guys, but we have to stick together. This is going to challenge us. Obviously, the first 3 games haven't gone our way. Tonight was really, really bad, and it's going to challenge us. And we got to stick together. We're going to be fine, but we got to go do it.
Look, I thought he was a generational talent. I really did. And he's been very disappointing in his NFL career. There's been glimpses, but there hasn't even been the Anthony Richardson, oh, wow plays, that lure you back into thinking it's going to change. I mean, just week in, week out. Now, early last year, he was playing well. But I think the structure of the team's completely wrong. I think their offensive line doesn't protect. I think he should be under center. I think this whole offense doesn't really have the physicality needed to be able to compete. And look, let's be clear, he's not a West Coast offense quarterback. I think he's more of a play action pass quarterback. So again, I'm not excusing him, but he's not all their problems. I mean, Balky drafts Walker, who had 10 sacks last year, over Hutchinson. Nobody's even brought that up, right? And the other thing Khan was really upset about is he has spent a lot of money on free agents. He's put a lot of money into the team, and usually what happens is they sign them, and then after a year they send them packing because they're not worth what they paid for them. And I think that's the biggest issue with Jacksonville. Jacksonville, really, at the end of the day, they have no structure. They have really no program. They just add players to their team. It's not a team with an identity, nor is it a team that has the ability to create a situation where we know who they are. They kind of just want to be an offense that makes plays as opposed to being an offense that has a philosophy.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because you look at this Jaguars team, there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of players with name value, but it's not working. And so that comes down to scheme issue, coaching issue. And you look at Doug Peterson going 18-19 in his past 3 seasons with the Jags. Yes, he turned it around after that, the 4-win season, 2 back-to-back 9-win seasons, but it was the way they ended last season, right? Like with a chance to win the division, they went 1-5 to close the season and lost outright to the Texans. That kind of dims that winning record just a bit.
Yeah, it really does. And, and that lack of momentum at the end of the year has carried over. I mean, look, they don't score in the second half against, as I'll keep saying, you got to evaluate teams in the fourth quarter. Like, you have to evaluate teams in the fourth quarter. Because that's when the game is at its utmost. The first quarter, scoring in the first quarter is about the game plan. But the fourth quarter is what you really learn about your team. And if you study it, and this Jaguar team has underperformed in the fourth, they couldn't score any point. They had a chance to beat Cleveland. I mean, they could have gone to Buffalo 2-0, but they just don't cover the details. They just don't handle all the things that go towards winning. And I, look, I have never been a believer in Doug Peterson as the head coach. I took a lot of criticism when he was in Philly and then he won a Super Bowl. But then 2 years after winning a Super Bowl and having a statue in front of Lincoln Financial Field, he got fired. So I think there's a little bit more here. He's a play caller. He's an offensive coach. I think this team needs way more toughness.
So let's say Texans beat the Jags. They go 0-4. Then they have Bears, Patriots, or Colts, Bears, Patriots. Could turn this thing around. Maybe Peterson's seat isn't as hot as we think, but definitely an interesting situation. Going
he can't
from the guy
win
who
9
saves
games and keep his job, though, Grace. 9 wins won't keep his job. And so if he loses this weekend, that means he's going to have a hell of a record. And he may not making the playoffs isn't what Shah Khan was expecting. Not from the quote we started this segment with.
All right, well, we'll keep everyone updated on the Jags situation. Coming up next, checking in on the Heisman market.
And they're off.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line. We are now taking a look at the Heisman Award market. Lots of movement in this young season so far, but Cam Ward remains the front runner with odds of plus 450. He's actually shorter in other places. Obviously, you got to look around, but Jackson Dart right behind him at 5-1. Jalen Milroe 6.5 to 1 or 7 to 1. Then it's Nico 9 to 1. Dylan Gabriel 11 to 1. Quinn Ewers 18 to 1. Carson Beck 16 to 1. And then you have Travis Hunter, who, I mean, his price varies enormously across the board. I'm seeing anywhere from 12 to 1 to 30 to 1. So once again, you got to make sure to check where you are shopping. But taking a look at his stats here, I mean, what can't this guy do? He has 37 receptions for 472 yards. It's an average of 12.8 a catch. 5 touchdowns. Last week, I'm trying to find his defensive stats right now, but he stuffs the stat sheet on the defensive side too. Last week, he won the game for Colorado against Baylor with that fumble at the goal line. So how likely is he actually to win Heisman? We've talked about it before, Michael. I mean, you need the exposure, you need the highlight reel, but you need to be on a team that wins games. Or do you?
Yeah.
Are you changing the way you think about his odds to win the Heisman at this point?
No, I think Travis Hunter is the best college football player. That doesn't mean he's going to win the Heisman. That's the problem, right? We have a bad definition of the Heisman. The Heisman goes to the best quarterback in college football. It's like the most valuable player in the league. It goes to the quarterback, right? We've just morphed this into the quarterback, even though back in the day, running backs were getting the Heisman because that was the game. Running was the game. Now we're more passing than ever before. Look, there's no question Travis Hunter is going to be an elite NFL player. There's no question he's a top 5 pick. There's no question. The only question is what position you want to play him at. He's so talented. But I don't believe he can win it. Look, if you have to beat Baylor with a Hail Mary, you're not good enough, right? I mean, let's just be clear. I mean, I know it's a great win and it makes a highlight. But if you got to throw a Hail Mary to beat Baylor, who's down this year, and Dave Arenda's trying to fight for his job, and hopefully he can, but that isn't going to be good enough. To me, Grace, when you look at this is just a lot of the way the award has gone. I mean, I actually saw the worldwide leader talking about, Arch Manning for the Heisman. Are you kidding me? I mean, the kid's not even the starting quarterback at Texas, and they're promoting him to win the Heisman. I almost lost my mind. I'm like, how can somebody have any intelligence and say that? I mean, but that capsule of that line, that statement that is being asked by one of the major sporting networks in this country just tells you how narrow-minded the voting is for the Heisman, which then excludes Travis Hunter from the whole entire conversation. So to me, this is really about what's going to happen over the next 6-8 weeks. I'll get to watch Milroe and Beck. But if you had to pick one other than Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, who would you go with, Grace?
I mean, preseason, I put my wagers on Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, and Avery Johnson. I think I was a year early on Johnson, but feeling good about Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, obviously, and they're three possession favorites in their respective games this weekend. Miami, a 19.5-point home favorite against Virginia Tech. Ole Miss, a 17.5-point home favorite against Kentucky. I'll be at that game, by the way. Shout out to the Grove. They never lose a party. So I'm excited for those two games, and I feel good about those two wagers. But getting back to Travis Hunter, I was actually looking at this last night, Michael. I was trying to find a list of Heisman winners who came from losing teams or teams with 3 losses. There is quite a few. And my research actually brought me to the Heisman website itself. And it's funny because they have this article where they're trying to combat the thought of people saying, oh, it's a team award. It's not about individual greatness. And then they go on to, they try to prove that it's not a team award, but then they list all the winners. And of course, over 50 of them have come from teams who are either undefeated or with 1 loss. So I'm like, what are you doing here? But there are 15 winners who come from teams with 3 regular season losses. So most recently, that would be Jaden Daniels at LSU, Lamar Jackson, RG3, Tim Tebow, Ricky Williams, Tim Brown at Notre Dame, Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, George Rogers, Jim Plunkett, Ernie Davis. I mean, it's a good list there, but you think about what those guys did to win that award. I mean, it was just highlight after highlight. The entire nation is talking about them, which Travis Hunter is doing. But then again, these teams only had 3 losses. There's one winner from a team with 4 regular season losses. That was in 1969, Steve Owens from Oklahoma. There is one winner on a team with a 500 record, Jay Berwinger, in 1935. His team went 4-4. And then one winner from a team with a losing record. So listen up, Buffs fans. Paul Hornung from Notre Dame. They went 2-8 in 1956.
Yeah.
So,
and he played quarterback, running back. You know,
exactly.
He ended up being the first pick in the draft, the Golden Boy, you know, up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And look, you know, but again, I think there's 2 Heismans. There's the Heisman that we all know that nobody was watching college football. There wasn't any games on television. So there's that Heisman. Then there's the period where we got some games on TV. There's that Heisman, you know, ABC, Keith Jackson, you know, and Frank Broyles would do games, you know, get a game a week. And now we're into the every game's available to everybody at any time Heisman. Plus, let's factor in social media in this to then propagandize some of these players. Look, if I were going to bet this, and I would take Nico from Tennessee. I think Tennessee's got a really good team. I think they're going to be one of the top 12 teams in the nation. I think he'll continue to put incredible numbers on. I think he'll continue to have momentum built. The Tennessee Army that's out there can endorse a candidate. I mean, they can carry the Southern primaries as well as anybody. I'm not saying Oregon can't, because Oregon's really good. And I think Dylan Gabriel's got a lot of Baker Mayfield in him in terms of how he plays. And certainly Jalen Milroe's got a lot of skill. I mean, I think Carson Beck's going to take a hit back as the team around him is so good. He may not get full credit for it. The same thing with Quinn Ewers, because when Arch Manning comes in, they really don't miss a beat. So I think the 2 favorites clearly, and if Dart ends up being, you know, if they're at the end of the year 2 or 3 in the poll, clearly. But my guy, and I'd love to hear what you think, Grace, Nico is the guy that I would put, you know, to have the best chance as a little bit of a long shot at plus 950.
So I like that play, and I actually don't think we've seen Nico's best game yet. Like, he wasn't good against Oklahoma, but Brent Venables runs a fantastic defense. So that's no shot to Nico at all. I guess you could say props to him for, you know, being in his first road environment as a young starter and still doing enough to pull out the win there. So, and then they've played Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State. I think he's definitely not lived up to his potential yet, but you see all these highlights and the pyrotechnics from this Tennessee offense, and it's kind of enough to kind of trick people into thinking, oh, this is just the Nico show, when they really are a well-balanced offense. They have a fantastic defense, maybe the best defensive front in all of college football. So I think that could actually help him a little bit, because it is a perception-based award, you know, at the end of the day. And no shade to the Heisman voters at all. I know a few of them, and they got a lot on their hands. Like, they don't have time to watch every single game, you know, because they're typically beat reporters, and they spend their entire Saturday covering their team, which is fine. That's their job. But I mean, it's sometimes a lot to ask these voters to keep up with every single player on this list. But the other interesting,
they scroll Twitter too, Grace. I mean, they're influenced by Twitter. You know, they're influenced by what is the Twitter crowd saying. And if you're listening to that, you're only going to get in trouble. You're not going to make good decisions. I mean, you got to watch these guys, their impact on their team. Look, if Cam Ward gets the Miami Hurricanes into the top 5 in the polling, and he overcomes what we all know is Mario Cristobal's horrendous in-game management, if he's able to do that and they go unblemished, that's going to carry a lot of weight, because a lot of people realize Mario, as a coach, is really, you know, has issues. He has certain problems in terms of winning games. I mean, we saw it last year. So I think, to me, there's that Twitter energy that comes into play that you've got to take into account.
No, and I was going to say that too. Social media could be the thing that really helps Travis Hunter's case, and also the Boise State running back, Ashton Jeanty, because I don't think anybody would have known about Jeanty's season if it weren't for social media. Because Boise State's a good team, but who's staying up to watch them? when they're playing at West Coast time, you know? The social media,
no
will have a really big impact in races like this. Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, another big game this weekend. One of those is going to tumble down the boards. Personally, I think it's Carson Beck because Alabama should be the favored team here. But Heisman market, always a fantastic conversation. We'll continue it all season long. Coming up next, we're going to get some official plays in here. Will Hill of the Shoulda Bet More podcast joining us with his best bets for college football week 5. And maybe a few NFL bets he's going to throw in there too. We'll be right back. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line. We've been discussing the stories and headlines, market movement all day long, but it is time to get some best bets up in here, and we got the perfect man for the job. It is Will Hill, VSiN contributor and host of the Shoulda Bet More podcast. He's also the host of the Bear Bets podcast with Fox Sports. Will Hill joining us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Will, thanks so much for being with us today. How are you today?
Always well. Fun time of the year. Got these pennant races in baseball, college football, NFL. It's a fun time of the year. Lombardi Sixers going to be starting training camp soon.
Oh, stop!
All good things.
Stop! I mean, Grace doesn't even know the whole story behind the Sixers. I mean, I told Elliot yesterday. We've had 2 GM shuffles after Big Boy got his extension, and we haven't even talked about it. So I got to get Grace caught up to speed. But my question for you is this beard a reflection of the winning streak you're on or a losing streak you're on? I mean, is this kind of you're growing it? Are you hiding from somebody? Are you witness protection? or are you just on such a win streak you don't want to shave?
I don't think it. I think it's D, none of the above. I just think it's look, it's busy time of the year with everything going on. We don't get a breather here. You just go from one set of games to the next. You get the doubleheader Monday night. You get a day or two off, and you look up and we're a day away from.
What is your thoughts on the doubleheader? What's your thoughts on the doubleheader?
I wish it was spread out. I'm okay with the 2, but I feel like Monday night is for just Sunday's for flipping around and having multiple games. Monday, you just turn one game on, you relax, watch one game. I'm okay. Like during COVID, they would have one game on at like 5 or 6, then another one 3 hours later. If they were on at like 6 and 9 or 5 and 8:30, something like that, I like it better. I don't like how they overlap like that. So look, as you know, nobody consults me with the schedule. I would do things differently. I wish they weren't overlapped.
I feel the same way, Will. I want to relax on a Monday night, so I'm cool with the doubleheader. Just space it out like they do with baseball games. But let's get into some of these plays here, and we're going to start with the big one, Georgia at Alabama. A lot of thoughts going around on who should be the real favorite in this one. I already know we're on opposite sides, so I'm going to let you go first. I want to hear why you like Georgia.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure you're going to see plenty of people or hear plenty of people say, hey, how often do you get Bama at home getting points? It's a reasonable take. It's a reasonable angle. I just look at it like how many times you get Georgia laying under a field goal. And I just think with Bama, it's still a little bit of a transition where it's not quite the Saban era. It's not quite the DeBoer era with his team, his players, his style. I think they're a little bit caught in between. I watched them against South Florida. I watched them a couple times this year where there's still people open in defensively in the secondary when they're on defense. The offensive line still isn't great. They're small on the offensive line. Like I said, they're in between what Saban liked as a player and what DeBoer liked, from his rosters. And I just think Georgia, they've got time off and they've got all the motivation. I mean, Kirby, I'm sure, will hang over their head. Hey, these guys cost you a three-peat. If it weren't for them, we would have won 3 in a row. And they might have. They really might have. I mean, who would have bet against them? They didn't play well last time out against Kentucky. They have all these things to kind of shove in their players' face. I think they're going to come out rabid. I think they're going to come out for blood here. It's going to be a hell of a game, hell of an atmosphere. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I don't think it'll be easy. This is a night game in Tuscaloosa. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch this. But I will go Georgia. I'll probably just play the money line. We're down to like 2.5. There's some minus 130 on the money line. I will play the money line. So if you take the 2, maybe we can get a Georgia by 1 here, and we can both win here. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I took Bama in the first quarter too on the money line, so we can both win there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the quarterback from UNLV, Skuka, decided that he wanted a raise. He walks into the office, demands a raise. Barry Odom says, I don't have any money to give you a raise. And so he does what nobody thinks is the right idea. I don't know who's advising this kid, but any kid who quits on his team during the season when you're 3-0, I don't think people are going to be willing to pay money in the NIL market. I don't give a crap about anything. But obviously the game carries on. UNLV is a 1-point dog to Fresno State. What's your play in this game?
Yeah, he pulled the Richie Aprile. He went into the pizza shop at Beansy and he said, I want a little cut here. I mean, it's ridiculous. I like the under. I like the under anyway because UNLV plays at a really slow pace. They both play good defense. If you look at yards per play allowed, they're both in the top 30, 40 in the country, right around 4 yards per play. And that's not all cupcakes. I mean, Fresno State has played Michigan, UNLV's played at Kansas. So I think this is going to be a good defensive game. Both these teams, like I said, play good defense. The pace favors an under here. And now no quarterback, they'll probably be even more conservative. So under 49, it's moved a point or so, point and a half since the quarterback news. It happened at a weird time, kind of overnight on the East Coast, where I don't know that everyone is even aware of the news. So probably moves a little bit more. I wouldn't be shocked if this closes like 47 and a half. You're dealing with some key numbers in there, but yeah, I like the under. Just big picture, man. The NIL. I think everyone or most people were in favor of these kids getting something, but we're going to get to a point, and maybe we've gotten to a point where it just gets out of control and it's ridiculous because you got a team who's 3-0. You know, people are talking about them as a sneaky playoff team, could win the conference. They've had a great season. Odom's done a great job. Then he goes in, week 3, week 4, and says, "Hey, I want more money. All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to use my red shirt." Which, why is he allowed to use the red shirt? He's healthy. I don't really understand that, but yeah, this is not going to go well. This is going to reach a point where it's too much.
Yeah, it'll be regulated eventually. I'll just say from my experience covering college football and the transfer portal, when a player makes this decision, typically it's because someone has already reached out to him and he has a school he's going to go to. So it's not like he's hitting the open market. But again, that's a combo for another time. Let's get some more bets in here. Notre Dame hosting Louisville. When we looked at the Fighting Irish schedule, I think this was the game everyone circled that could be the toughest. Little did we know Northern Illinois exists. But who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I'll take Louisville plus the points. Louisville beat them last year. Now it was a bad spot last year for Notre Dame. Notre Dame was coming off of a bunch of good games in a row, tough games in a row. Braum has done really well as an underdog in his career, and Louisville is really good up front in their front four against the run. And Notre Dame, I know they had that game against Purdue where they scored basically 1 million points. I think they're still scoring. This is not like a big-time passing offense. Their offensive line is young and inexperienced. Leonard is hit or miss as a passer. He's a good runner. And then you have a Louisville team who, look, they're probably not going to try to throw the ball in Notre Dame because Notre Dame is outstanding in the secondary. So I think now that I'm talking about it, maybe an under is better here. But I just think Louisville plus the points, I think this is more of a field goal game. I'll take the dog here in Louisville.
And then you love that Gus Malzahn offense. You like Central Florida to go over the 40 point total?
Yeah, this is a bad spot for Colorado because UCF, I believe, is off of a bye here. Colorado is probably still celebrating, rushing the field, tearing down the goalposts after that win, which was
against Baylor.
Against Baylor. You shouldn't be able to storm the field like that when you're a favorite in a game. But I don't know what the hell Baylor was doing, by the way, on that final Hail Mary. I've never seen a guy wide open on a Hail Mary. That was an interesting defensive design. I think a couple of the D-backs for Baylor were guarding some cheerleaders. I don't know what they were guarding or who they were guarding. But I think Central Florida is basically going to score every time they touch the ball. They're over 6 yards per carry. They play at a really fast, up-paced tempo. And let's not kid ourselves. Colorado still has some major, major issues defensively, protecting the quarterback. I think, look, anytime you play Colorado, they're not going to catch you off guard. People are going to be motivated. They're going to want to run up the score. So, 42 points, 49 points. I think UCF is just going to basically going to be able to name their score on offense. The spread 14 and a half. Maybe Colorado can score enough to hang in there, but I think UCF is just going to dominate this game on offense.
Love that. Okay, all week long, we've been talking about Bengals 0-3. Do they make the playoffs? Looking at the odds now, yes is plus 118. No is minus 140. You got a prediction for us? Or see some value here?
I'm okay with the no minus 140. I also see their adjusted win total over under 8.5. I like the under. I mean, a lot of the reason people liked Cincinnati coming into the season was the schedule. It was the last place schedule where they get to play New England, they get to play Washington. Well, they've already played 2 of those games, and they've played them both at home, and they've lost both of them. So you still got all your division games left. You still got some tough games left. Asking them to get to 9 wins, you're gonna have to win at least 9 to make the playoffs. Now the AFC. Miami, Jacksonville, they've struggled, so maybe 9 gets you in. But to me, minus 140 to miss the playoffs. Now, maybe they win in Carolina this week and you wait and you get a better number, but who knows? Carolina looked better last week. I just think this team at 0-3 is still a very hard hole to dig out of, even though you have the 17th game, even though there is the 7th spot in terms of the wild card. I think no's a good bet. And look, Belichick's probably going to get one of these jobs. I don't know that he'd take one middle of the season, but between Cincinnati, the Bears, the Jags, the Cowboys, all of these teams underachieving. You figure Belichick is going to pop up and grab one of these jobs probably in the offseason.
The smart teams would try to get them before the competition. You want to get it done before if you're smart, but we're counting on teams being smart, and I'm not sure they all are, Grace.
That's true. All right, Will Hill, one more I want to get in for you. Steelers Colts under 40. You're still on that, right?
Playing the under every week. I mean, Tomlin wants to win these games in the 20s. Richardson was awful last week.
Yeah, Steelers unders until they prove otherwise. All right, Will Hill, thanks so much for joining us. You can listen to him on the Shoulda Bet More podcast or the Bear Bet podcast on Fox Sports. Coming up next, we're resetting at the top of the hour with News or Noise. You're listening to the VSiN Morning Line.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with sharp betting analysis on the